Thank you for tuning in to Koppen with Comic. I'm Brian Koppen. We're here with comic Malcolm Cills. Malcolm Cills, how the hell are you?
I'm doing great. How are you, man?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for coming on. And where can people find you online doing comedy during the quarantine? I know I think you're Malcolm Comedy across social platforms. You were the funniest Malcolm who got that title, huh?
Yeah, I beat all the other Malcolms to it, I guess. That's actually why I've kept it, to be honest. I've like been about to change it, and then I'm like, you know what? There's probably a lot of other Malcolm comics out there that are dying for this handle. So let me just
Yes.
hold on to it.
Yes, they're gonna approach you soon and offer you money.
Yeah, exactly. That's my big payday. And then I'll use that money to film my own special, and then I'll sell that to Netflix, and
And you'll
yeah,
get
the rest is
canceled.
history.
Yeah, you'll
Yeah,
get
and then I'll get
canceled for something you're
canceled,
doing
and
in
then
your
I'm
personal life that I know
yeah,
nothing about right now.
yeah,
Let's let people know. I don't know the weird thing that
yes,
Malcolm subsequently did, or things that Malcolm has been doing for decades.
yeah, for my whole life.
All right.
Uh,
Well, yeah. So what we're going to talk about real quick is it sounds like you've been getting into some fucking pulpy reality trash TV during the quarantine, and I think you are watching 90 Day Fiance. So real quick, tell me about that. What the fuck
oh
is
my
it?
god, oh my god. Okay, so it's like a reality show basically about these. Mostly, it's like men who find like these women in other countries, and they develop like an online relationship, but they're
Mhm.
really just getting scammed most of the time in most cases.
Oh
Uh,
shit! Really?
yeah,
And so the
yeah,
show is almost like helping document the scam, and they're not going to, as a documentarian, you don't reveal to the subject of the documentarian anything. So if you're like filming cheetahs, you don't let them know that, hey, you're about to get eaten by X, Y, and Z or whatever. And so
exactly.
like they
It's
don't
like
let these people know that they're about to get scammed because that would fuck with the reality TV aspect.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And a lot of the times, like they get to the country to meet their girlfriend, and they're like, "Oh my god, I love you so much," and the girlfriend's like, "I love visas," and like all they care about is getting like going to America and getting married, and then
Wow.
you follow up with the couple after the show, and they're like divorced. But it's pretty funny because I'm like, when I'm watching it, I'm like, man, I wish I had a camera crew following me and my girlfriend around. I'd be able to notice.
Yeah, and
Oh
what would
my
go on?
god.
So like in the difference, like so when he says I love her and she says I love visas, is she saying that to the camera or is she saying it to him? Are all these things just like they're talking past each other? They're not talking. She's not saying that to him, is she?
Yeah, she's not like. I mean, some of the women are like. One of the guys met his girl, and he was like, "How do I look in person?" And she went, "No, no." And then like they immediately went to like a market, and she grabbed his wallet and started just like bawling out at this market. And he's like, "What are you doing?" Like, yeah, it's pretty funny.
And was she that kind of was she that hot, or was he that desperate to be married, or was he that
Desperate to be
dilute?
married.
And it
I
was he,
mean, when you
yeah,
see
was he
kind of where
also?
some of these people come from, you're like,
Uh,
oh, okay, I could develop an online relationship with Big Ed if I meant getting out of there.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
so
so some of them
meaning
come
like
from that.
yeah, you see her situation, and she talks a good game because she's getting out of a desperate situation. But also, he's such a loser that he can be deluded that this beautiful woman from another country could love him, or no?
Yeah, I mean, that's the good thing. Like, not the good thing, but the interesting thing is like the guys are all kind of assholes. Like they're
Ah.
all like either really misogynistic or they're lying about how much money they have to begin with. So you're kind of like rooting for the scammer in a way. You're
Oh,
like,
but
yeah,
also
pull the
then
shit
she
off.
then she gets scammed though because she realizes that's all the money he had in his wallet, the $50 that she blew at the market, right?
Exactly. Like, there's a guy who was talking to a woman on this Russian dating site that translates for you. It's literally like $5 a minute, and
Wow.
he has said he had spent like 7 years talking to this girl on this website. He had been to Russia like 4 times, and she was a no-show. But the camera crew would say like, "So, do you think you're getting scammed?" And he would be like, "You're crazy. Get out of here. Lana's real. That's my Lana. Like my Lana." It's just so sad.
And
You
is it ever like a bunch of dudes in a room you know, because you think of some of these people dating profiles who are subsequently trying to drive traffic to a nude cam or something, could just be you know, robots at first, and then a bunch of dudes in a room who are pasting form replies and things like that. Is it actually a woman on the end,
It
or
was. So that was the thing that they revealed, was that it was a woman on the
okay.
end, but she definitely worked for a company where like they were paid to just like talk to
Yeah.
these like guys online.
Wow.
And he meets up with her and he's like, I'm in love with you, and she's like, like let's keep talking online. And he's like, I'll move to Russia for you, and she's like, please do not do that. Like,
we
it's
need
pretty
your
funny.
$7 a minute. So let's
Yeah,
talk about this online. I get
yeah.
paid
And
by
then
the minute.
and then like while I'm watching this, I'm watching the show You with
Yeah.
on Netflix. It's like about this guy who's like a stalker,
Yeah.
and he's dating a girl, and she doesn't even know that he's been stalking her. She just thinks
Yeah.
it's his boyfriend, and like it's really weird watching that. I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of weird watching that with my girlfriend.
Yeah, you're
Because
not
like
that you don't have the healthiest viewing habits as far as being in a relationship.
I know everything we're watching is like, you cheated on me, you lied to me, like murder and involved. It's like pretty unhealthy.
Yeah, I mean
Um,
it's so like watching it with your girlfriend. Is she just totally just watching in horror, hoping that Malcolm Stills doesn't learn the wrong lessons from these shows?
yes, and it's pretty funny when I hear her be like, he's so crazy, and he like, and I'm like, oh my god, like I would never do the stuff that he's doing, but like even sometimes when he's just like, oh, who texted you? She's the female character would be like, mind your business, and then my girlfriend would be like, exactly, and I'm like, I've never done that. Like I've never done that. Like I feel like I'm being attacked. But
Yeah,
it's
her
funny.
vociferous response to the screen is like, dude, I mean, you're attacking me passive aggressively, like,
Yeah,
but you kind of get it, like, meaning you
yeah, I
get
get
some
it.
of the possessive, like, if he would have dialed it down like 1,000 notches, you could get some of the things that Penn Badgley is
Exactly.
showing on the screen, right? And she
Yeah,
doesn't realize
exactly.
that, yeah, if she gets a rando text in the middle of the night, you might be wondering what the fuck it is, right?
Yeah, who, yeah, exactly. Like, who was that? And then now I'm like trying to be the complete opposite of Penn Badgley. I'm like, what has this show done to me? Like, it's like it's consuming. Like I'm obsessive now over it.
Dude, I love
And then
it
the whole
though.
Chris D'Elia shit happened. You
Oh
watch
yeah,
it?
so Chris D'Elia was on You as a pedophile, right?
Yeah,
And that turned out to be fairly close to home.
fairly close down. And he also was a pedophile and workaholics. It's like, what do you think that if you were like, there's no way that Chris D'Elia, like I heard him talk a million times, right? I feel like I get a sense of his personality.
Yeah.
There's no way that he didn't think he was doing, like, I don't know all the details, but let's say he was actively texting a girl that was like 15 or 16 and he knew about it, right? Like, why would you then take it a step further and be like, my first two major TV roles, I'm gonna play a pedophile.
Oh yeah, yeah, and even his recent special, I finally like I turned it off because it sucked, but then I gave it another chance, and he did talk a lot about being creepy, like, you know, being the creepy guy at Hot Topic or Forever 21 or whatever, and having a van outside and stuff like that. And he's saying he looks like one too, and so you're right that he kind of, you know, invited this upon himself. It's like Aziz Ansari when he did the whole Time's Up pin, that then created the
Ooh.
avalanche of backlash on his whole, you know, treatment of people he's dating.
Yes, yes. Yeah, Aziz Ansari, that was, in my opinion, that was a sad one.
Yeah, because
But
it
I
sounds
watched
like
his,
he was just pressuring some. He was just kind of pressuring somebody, right?
yeah, yeah. It sounded like he just pressured someone, and I don't think that it's like the only thing I heard. That's why I don't know the details about Chris D'Elia, but when I do talk about it with some people that are very against Chris D'Elia now,
Yeah.
they expressed to me like everyone has said like, well, when you see the messages and the evidence, there's a pattern.
Yeah.
There's like a pattern. Whereas like with Aziz Ansari, it was like one person who came out and spoke. If there
Yeah.
was like if there was like 20 girls that had the exact same story, I'd be like, yeah, you're a weirdo. Like,
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
like
I think John Travolta's a
it's like a
weirdo too.
pattern. Yeah, it's like a pattern. Like yeah, John Travolta pressuring the massage guy to touch him X, Y,
Yeah,
and Z.
like for
But
years, I heard about Kevin Spacey. For years before it came out, I would
yeah,
always hear about how Kevin Spacey preyed on like younger guys on set.
yeah,
So when it came out, I was just like, yeah, there's like a pattern there. I'm like, whatever. He's just like he's got something in him. I just can't control it or
So,
something.
so if Malcolm Cills is canceled in 5 years and people look at this podcast, what is Malcolm Cills hiding? Like, what's the pattern in your life? And it might not be, your relationship with females or whatever, but what kind of stuff are you talking about on stage? Because it sounds like you're obsessed with this show, and obsession can be where a lot of great comedy bits can come from because you are going to
Mm.
dive deep into the details of something in particular. Like, what's the topic? What's one big chunk that you've been diving deep on and that you were obsessed with at some point to the point where you have a polished piece of comedy on it now?
Um. Okay, well, I don't think it's anything I would get canceled for, but I started off with comedy as very like doing like jokey jokes with like
Yeah,
punchlines, and very recently I started before Corona. I was getting into like trying to talk about real shit going on. So like
good.
years ago, I had cancer.
Oh,
So yeah, I survived cancer. So I felt like that was something that I should start off with,
yeah,
like where and I have like really polished material on it at this point,
good.
but I do have a lot of people being like, "Man, that shit was funny." It was like I felt bad laughing at some points, and I'm like,
Yeah, but
"That's
you
a
were
good
but
thing."
you were laughing. You were
Yeah,
laughing.
but you were laughing. Like it
Yeah.
gets really good, big laughs, and then the other thing was like before I got into that, I had some jokes about like being a hospice nurse and how I feel like if you're going to be a nurse, like that's the easiest nurse to be because
Uh,
all your clients are like guaranteed to die. The
yeah.
job always gets done.
It's like, yeah,
It's like your
you could fuck up, but they were gonna die anyway, right?
yeah, like your boss is like, dude, you kill it every month, employee of the month
Ah.
again.
Well, as long as these things are true, and especially like you're a good-looking young guy and stuff, you get on stage and start talking about hardship in your act, and you didn't preface it with the cancer thing, people will be like, "I don't believe you. I don't
Yeah,
believe that this guy
exactly.
knows anything about hardship at all." And so
Yeah,
it's a nice way to break the ice and look a little bit vulnerable because when you're a good-looking young guy, it's like Chris D'Elia. Like recently on stage, he's like, "Dude, I've had an easy life, man, because his parents were famous and rich and stuff like that. And it
yeah,
turns out his mom even like pampered him and shit. And he's like, and he just kind of came out. I was like, dude, I have an easy life, absolutely. And
yeah,
so like we were tempted to think that about him anyway, and he just confirmed it. And so the fact that you're
yeah,
kind of disabusing people of the notion that a young, good-looking guy can't have hardship, you're freeing up a huge chunk of material. You could talk about
yeah,
anything now. We'll believe that you have a proper perspective on it. Like I had cancer, but this still annoys me on the street. Like if you were just talking about something annoying on the street, people be like, this guy has no frame of reference for what difficulty is.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I
Yeah.
actually weird. I had a show once. Do you ever heard of them? It was a great show. It was at this comedy club called the Misfit Hive. I think
Okay.
it's like uptown. It's like a new club. And I had someone after the show come up to me, and they were like, "Yeah, he was a comic, I think, who was just there watching." And he was like, "Man, I saw you before the show, and I just hated you." And I was like, and then he told me, he's like, "But once you were really funny, man. You're a real good stand up." And I was like, that's so interesting to me because
you
like
wanted you
it's
wanted to hate me, but I won you over with my material, my cancer bit.
yeah. Yeah, I think I heard that. I think I saw something. Maybe it was like on Howard Stern or somewhere where Kristen Wiig was talking about that. How she has a hard time, like when she early in her career when she would do improv or whatever, people would just like think that she was like this tall, skinny blonde girl, and they like didn't want to laugh at her at first. But then she was actually like really funny.
Yeah.
So it kind of like it actually worked for her because like I think sometimes that happens when people look at me and they think I haven't gone through anything hard, and then all my material is like super dark.
Yeah.
I think it adds an extra layer to it. People are more into it
Yeah,
because they
it
yeah,
frees us to like you. And I
yes,
think
yeah,
some of the, and one example that I always think about is the fact that certain hot female comedians, one of the ways that they do a good job on their Instagram feeds is to take pictures. They can take their thirst traps, I don't care. But a lot of times it's alongside of them looking purposely ugly, like them mugging, making a weird face or putting on a stupid wig. And that stuff kind of frees you to be like, all right, yeah, I'm pretty sometimes, but I'm also fucking hilarious. And so
yeah,
I want my followers to like both sides of me because they know
yeah,
it's still
yeah,
going to
yeah.
be an asset if they get casted for shows or whatever. So, I mean, I guess like, on your Instagram or on your social, are you doing anything with are you doing any videos that kind of, show you as less than
Yeah,
perfect?
that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
I, I used to be like when before Vine got canceled, I got a little bit of hype on Vine, like right
Okay.
before it shut down the app, and on that app I used to never give a shit, and a lot of
Yeah.
my followers crossed over onto Instagram, and then I kind of just started like caring a little bit too much of how I was perceived on Instagram because of like my acting career.
Yeah.
And then recently I'm like, you know what? I just want to like get into that whole make a sketch every week, which I don't do, but like at least once a month or whenever I have the time, like just sit there, make a sketch, and like I'm a true believer in like the more you do it, the better you get at, the better
Yeah.
they get. So like I was on a roll like 2 years ago where I was making a sketch like every day, every week,
And you were doing it
and
for
it's
Vine.
yeah, I was doing it for fun, and they started getting like actually funny,
But
and
you
then
were doing it for Vine, Vine.
I was doing it for Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah, like this was
So
like a
they
year ago.
so they
I was
started
like, you
getting
know
funny.
what?
You were like, man, this practice makes perfect, doesn't it?
Yeah, and
Wow.
then now that I've come back to Instagram sketches, I'm like, you know what? I'm just not gonna care. I don't care how I look. I'm gonna be as goofy as possible
Yeah.
because I feel like a lot of people that follow me are following me maybe because I'm an actor.
Okay.
Like a lot of people are like, "Oh, you're a comic?" Like I didn't know that. Like I would never think. Like a lot of people at my job are like, "Oh, you do stand up?" Like I never would have guessed that. But I'm like, thanks for that huge insult. You're basically saying I'm not funny. Okay,
I'm
cool.
never fucking funny. Thanks a lot,
Yeah,
asshole. That's funny.
but my friends like they that every comic will say this. Like, my friends think I'm hysterical. So
Yeah.
like I just want what my goal right now is like just make sketches that show the funny side that my best friends know.
Yeah.
So
Because
like
it's yeah.
just be as goofy
I
as
see
possible.
some videos where you have a regular crew of people who are making this content.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wait, what'd
Well,
you
it's
say?
good. You got a regular crew of people who are popping up in this Instagram content, so it's good you found a comedy crew to kind of make these videos
Yeah.
and make sure you stay silly. Are you doing Bite now? Because I had John Field on and he said that if you were big on Vine, Bite is the new you could be huge on fucking Bite. Like if you have
Really?
any editing ability such that you can kind of edit your funny down into 6 seconds or whatever the fuck it is, Bite is the new thing. And I think Bite Dance actually owns TikTok. So I think
Oh.
BYTE is the new Vine, and so it sounds like you could go on there as well. But yeah, so what does your girlfriend think about all this? Like, is she, is she a
My
fan of
girlfriend's a
it?
yeah, my girlfriend's a comic.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
And
she's
so
a
she
stand-up comedian.
so she doesn't she could give a shit. She'd be like, dude, yeah, you're funny, but everybody is. Like everybody on this fucking show is hilarious. Like I see her on a bill with Bill. You were hosting a show with Maddie Smith. I just had her on earlier today, and she's hilarious. And she did her episode was talking about living with Andrew Chavone, who's hilarious, and he's doing a podcast with Steven Rogers. I had him on. He's hilarious. Like everybody's hilarious. And so if your girlfriend is a stand-up, she's the first to tell you, yeah, dude, you're funny, but
Yeah,
you got to be
yeah,
funny on stage every night in videos every day, or there's other people who might hustle more than you, right?
yeah. So that was what was really funny about it was like we both got introduced by Tori Piskin. Like that's how we met.
Yeah.
It's the comedian Tori Piskin,
Oh, cool.
and like I was doing a lot of shows before I met her, and then as soon as I met her, like I wasn't getting hit up for any shows, and she was getting on like a show every week. It felt like, and there was definitely like a because it was the beginning of our relationship. Like I was like, damn, I hope she doesn't think that like I'm not serious about comedy.
Yeah.
So that was one thing that definitely put like a fire under my ass. Like right
Oh, good.
before Corona was like I started getting on like a lot of shows. I was
Wow.
just I just kind of just was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna ask. Like I
Yeah.
used to be one of those people that's like I'm never gonna ask. Like that's how you like the real way to get on the show is you have to earn it. Like that's how you get good. And then I was just like, you know what, fuck it. Like I need to not just do open mics. Like I need to ask and stuff like that. So I started asking people, and I started doing Carolines all the time.
Wow.
That was a great time. And then I started getting on like people's people like comics shows, which was really fun.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like getting 10-minute spots, which was a little bit like
Wow.
but yeah, my girlfriend and me, I think my girlfriend's hysterical. She's so fucking funny. I
So
think you should
you
have
need.
her on.
Oh, I'd love to have her on. I'll talk to you
Yeah,
after the program so you can
yeah, definitely.
fucking dox your girlfriend. Give me her digits.
Yeah,
So when you get the rando text in the middle of the night, you'll be like Penn
yeah, no,
Badgley. What the fuck, man? What
like
the
of course,
hell? But I love that you
Well,
have to work as hard as your girlfriend. Like, and if that weren't the case, you'd have to work as hard as somebody else in the scene you respect. Like, you know, like I forgot who said it. I thought it was Joe Gorman. Yeah, he came from San Francisco, and he was like, dude, like some people who came from San Francisco and got passed at clubs out there didn't want to hustle in New York City. And he goes, dude, there's people here with TV credits who are pulling their name out of the hat at an open mic. Like, if they
yeah,
can do it, if they can do an open mic, I'm fine doing, several mics a night or whatever. But I also
yeah,
like the
man.
fact that you're just asking people. Like sometimes, as long as
Anytime, yeah,
you're not demanding with it. I think Luis Galilei, he produced so many shows, and him and Eddie Gomez were like, I thought they said don't just send me your press kit. Like there's probably something to be said about also going to see one of the shows at least, but asking people,
yes,
like, the worst they can say is no, and it sounds like if they weren't booking you before, that was essentially a no anyway, right?
exactly, exactly.
But
Uh,
it's cool you're able to stretch out. So I mean, after that, you're doing the cancer material. Kind of, where can you go from there? That's appropriate. Like if you start dark to disarm people and let them know that hardship. Do you
mhm.
then get into kind of observational stuff, or do you stay
I've been
autobiographical?
getting more into like that's the next topic I've been getting into is my mom. Like I think that I'm really good at doing impressions, not of
Oh,
like
good,
famous people, but just of people I know personally
good.
that make people laugh. So like
Yes,
I did like a whole 10-minute set on just like shit about my mom, like my mom raising me and the funny weird shit my mom thinks and believes and says.
good,
And that honestly has been my best like stand up so far. And I
good.
was doing it right before Corona, and I was like, man, I'm finally actually like, this is what stand up is supposed to make you feel like.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then
So
Corona comes and the best laid
and just
plans.
destroyed it. Yeah, it's just completely. But you know, I wrote a lot of more stuff. Gave me more time to write more about my mom, and
Yeah,
I think a great way to do jokes is just to run them by your like best. Like I have two friends who love that I'm a stand up, who
yeah.
I can like I don't even do this with my girlfriend really, but I do this with like two friends where I just say like, hey, I have this joke idea, and they're just like so down to hear it, and they really are brutally honest,
Good.
and they were loving all the stuff I have.
So yeah, some of
So
the stuff like I had Dustin Chafin on, and I talked about my Mount Rushmore, including Kevin Hart, and I think Dustin Chafin wasn't as. I thought he was surprised by the fact that Kevin Hart was on my Mount Rushmore, but I can typically take down all his specials, and I did Kevin Hart specials recently, and I was noticing last night, I was like, Kevin Hart is funny because of the voices and the act outs. Like
exact.
he's
Okay,
got
so
funny
he's
stories, but
definitely
they're
my.
yeah, they're only a material because he does the voices. And then so if you find people laughing harder at the
Mhm.
fact that you're personifying your mom, that's where you live. Like, and every
Yes.
voice you have, every person in your life, you have to test with your friends, what voice do you guys like for this character? Because if that's
Yeah.
what's making people laugh, that's your bread and butter, right?
Yeah. It's more like I'm not a jerk, but like it's more like I'm just like I can find something I find annoying like in everyone.
Yeah.
Like there's something I always have to complain about. It's like my kryptonite. It's like my biggest gift, but my biggest weakness. It's like what makes me super funny, but also like sometimes it's just like, all right, Malcolm, just
Yeah.
there's nothing like just take a break. Like
Ease
so
up,
like
ease
I've
up.
always
That
like
ease up. That's your future father-in-law. Your girlfriend says.
yeah,
Ease up
like
on that impression. Yeah.
yeah, like I've always like I would come home from school and my mom would be like, "Oh, how was like your acting class?" And I'd be like, "It was great, but the teacher had this weird voice." And like my mom's like, "That's the only thing you learned from the fucking acting class." Like, but yeah, that's been that. And going to Mount Rushmore because I love talking about this. Like, I think Kevin Hart. For me, it's like Eddie Murphy was like my first time I ever saw, which I know everyone says this, but like I saw Eddie Murphy and I was like, I want to do stand up
Yeah.
because he was doing all these bits about his aunt, his uncle, his dad, his brother, like, and same thing with Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart, has that great bit about his uncle watching out the window and like being nosy.
Oh, the grandpa in the screen door where he's just watching everything. I love
Yeah.
that.
Why is the cat licking out the bowl? Like
Yeah.
licking the milk out the
Get
bowl.
out
It's
that
just like,
bowl.
yeah, like that's the type of shit
Yeah.
I love to talk about to my friends about my family members. So like when I watched Eddie Murphy and then I just grew up on like a lot of black comics. So like it just so happens that my Mount Rushmore is like fucking Eddie Murphy, Kevin Hart, Chris Rock, uh, Martin Lawrence. Like those are my favorite comics. Cat Williams was the first comic I ever saw live.
Oh
So
wow, that's a good
yeah, my
first. That's a
mom
good first
surprised
show.
me. Yeah, he was the first show he did when he was like right out of prison. And he did a fucking arena in Philly, the Temple Basketball Arena. And he did go on for like 10 minutes about how he hates Kevin Hart. But it's
Was
just like one of like I just love those comics that just like all they talk about is just the funny like funny people in their lives and the shit that they do that just like they can't wrap their head around.
Yeah, that's why
But
I
yeah,
like Kevin Hart more than somebody like Chris Rock, because it's not a race issue. It's just taking the characters in his life and acting
yes.
them out for us. And it sounds like that's what Malcolm Cills do. So we're gonna, although we can follow you, and of course we do at Malcolm Comedy across social platforms, we're only gonna fire you up if you're acting that shit out, because that's where Malcolm Cills lives, man. He fucking becomes he becomes his mom. He becomes the patient in the patient in hospice who's about to die. And Malcolm Cills, thank you so much for coming on the program today.
Yeah, thank you so much, man.